Hey friends, it's Jasmine from Jasmine's Astrology, but you can call me Jay. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be chatting about the full moon in Taurus happening on November 15th at around 4:28 p.m. Eastern at 24 degrees of Taurus. Now, as with all full moons, there will be themes here of heightened energy levels, heightened emotions. Since the new moon happened a couple of weeks ago, the moon has been moving through its phases of growth and accumulation. And then the full moon represents this part of the cycle where there's a culmination of sorts to all of that. The cup becomes full and it's really getting ready to, overflow or pour forth. We have this sense that something is reaching some kind of peak, some kind of climax, something, whether in our internal or external landscapes, is really coming into fullness at this time. It's almost like the volume is getting dialed all the way up, especially in the Taurus part of our chart and of our lives. The spotlight is shining directly and brightly into that area. So that could come with moments of realization and clarity, an experience of illumination. The full moon really speaks to visibility. We can see and or be seen. We can witness something more fully about our world, again, whether that's internal or external, or maybe we are being witnessed and acknowledged. A full moon can also bring a certain level of tension, a kind of push and pull dynamic, a need to make a choice between this or that, to prioritize something and not the other. Again, this could be internal, it could be external. If it's internal, maybe we're trying to reconcile, contradictory needs and desires. If it's playing out between, ourselves and another person, we might find that we're navigating opposing or at least, differing views and ideas within relationships, and also potentially trying to find compromise somewhere there within. Now, this full moon is happening in Taurus, and so some other themes that we will see highlighted are, pleasure, comfort, relaxation, joy, beauty, and the senses and very tactile experiences like, food or being in nature. We might feel an increased need or desire for these things, or perhaps they're just coming into greater awareness for us somehow. These are things that get that volume dial increase at this time. And our full moon clarity and illumination might be somehow centered around these themes. We might be discovering something about where and how we find beauty, sweetness, and pleasure through the body and within the physical world around us. Now, we also want to consider what Venus is up to during this full moon because, of course, Venus is the planetary host. It is responsible for what happens in the sign of Taurus. And so Venus's condition is always going to have some kind of impact on anything that's happening in the sign of Taurus, Libra as well. But of course, the focus for this full moon is on Taurus. And at the time of the full moon, Venus is going to be moving through Capricorn. Now, both Taurus and Capricorn are earth signs, and so we get this emphasis. We get almost a doubling down on those tactile and physical qualities that I mentioned. There is a very tangible element to this full moon. There's a through line of focus on the senses and what we feel and what we can touch and what we can embody. And then that theme of connecting into sources of pleasure and relaxation also gets this added element of quality over quantity with Venus in Capricorn. So this full moon isn't really suggesting that we need to go for instant gratification. It's not an invitation to indulge or overload the senses just to feed a kind of desire, but instead it is maybe an invitation to seek sources of joy that are sustainable, to prioritize the connections and comforts that will provide long-term nourishment and sweetness. Venus in Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign, is going to have that kind of practicality and focus on longevity to it. This combination of the moon in Taurus and Venus in Capricorn almost feels like an invitation to really slow down and check in with the body, check in with our physical surroundings, check in with the present moment. I think a big factor in terms of tapping into those moments of illumination and clarity that this full moon can bring is in taking this reminder to anchor into, to ground into the present moment so we can actually, be aware and be able to receive what's being offered. Grounding and centering, those kinds of practices are going to look different to everybody, of course. But I think if we are, anchoring that back into this experience of the senses, we can take note of things that we see, hear, smell, and touch. And when we're eating, we can really try to, identify the different like flavors that we're tasting and even like the mouth feel of things, scanning the body to see where we're holding tension or where we feel really easeful. These are things that help me tap into that more sensual experience, and I think that might be really helpful for Taurus and a full moon in Taurus specifically. Because our ability to stay present, to stay calm, to find center is potentially going to be challenged at this full moon because the full moon itself is going to be tightly conjunct Uranus. And Uranus tends to surprise, it tends to throw a wrench into the plans and shake things up. Uranus is the planet of plot twists and what the fuck moments. And I want to specify that I don't think that's a bad thing. Not totally, not 100%, right? I think it can be challenging and frustrating, but it can also be really exciting and enlivening and refreshing. Uranus often helps to get stuck energy moving again. It can help us to break away from patterns and habits that are feeling stagnant and don't really serve us anymore. And in the fixed signs, so Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, these are often the areas of life in which we really hold on to, sometimes grip onto patterns and routines and beliefs that no longer actually work for us, but we prefer consistency and stability in those areas. They're the fixed signs they hold. That's just part of their nature. And so a Uranus activation in one of those signs can actually be a lovely little permission slip to maybe a permission slip, or maybe a friendly but firm push to break away and stop doing those things. And none of that is meant to minimize the difficulties of moving through things that are disruptive and destabilizing and chaotic, certainly not. But I also do really believe that a Uranian style surprise can sometimes be really pleasant and might actually be a gift of sorts. If you've ever experienced a plan being totally derailed and then had to come up with something new on the fly, and then that new plan wound up being way better than the original was going to be. That's a very Uranian plot twist that works out for the best and can actually show us like how being flexible and how like going with the flow in those moments and not resisting the change that is happening can be really productive and really helpful. And I mean, when plans get derailed, it would be very easy and understandable to get stressed and anxious, maybe even give up, probably especially in those fixed parts of the chart that don't necessarily deal with change super easily. It's not that they can't change, but it's not like super quick all the time. But by staying flexible, by staying curious, by staying in the moment, and then moving with the pivot that's being introduced, who knows what possibilities that might open up to us because of that, right? Who knows what we might discover about ourselves? And, to bring it back, to ground it back into this full moon specifically, who knows what we might discover about what brings us joy and pleasure, or how we might find new ways of connecting with leisure and comfort, when we're nudged or pushed to break away from what we know and try something new, especially when that something new feels a little or a lot outside of the norm for us, particularly within a societal lens. Because Uranus is very much about going against the grain. And so when we go back to that idea of the full moon sometimes being about making a this or that type of choice, having to prioritize one thing over the other, with Uranus in the mix, that is a helpful clue that we want to move towards the choice that feels the most authentic to us. I mean, we want to do that all the time, but especially when Uranus is in the mix, even and especially when that authentic choice feels kind of unexpected and possibly even unaccepted. Uranus really encourages us to challenge convention, to challenge societal norms, and to ditch conformity in favor of freedom. The brightness and the illumination of the full moon, in combination with those Uranian qualities of surprising discovery and innovation, suggests, at least to me, anyways, that we might be coming into awareness around something that is potentially a little like, what the fuck? Well, damn. In regards to our relationships with others, our relationship with pleasure, leisure, joy, sweetness, embodiment, and our bodies, all of those Taurian topics. We might get this like light bulb moment around like, oh, I actually really dig that thing, and I kind of want more of that in my lived experience, or actually, that food is really tasty. I never thought I would like it, but I really enjoy it. Whatever it is, we're opening up those sensual experiences and trying something new, and allowing ourselves to find new pathways to pleasure. And maybe there was something that was blocking us from seeing that before. Maybe it was ourselves standing in our own way, but with this Uranian element of it all and with the clarity of the full moon, it's like I'm more free somehow to embrace this. So let me move towards it. The final little piece about this full moon that I want to explore is that, most folks I think know that the moon is symbolic of emotion and feeling and all of that. But something that I don't think is maybe talked about enough with the moon is its connection to memory and the way it collects memories, the way it collects our lived experiences. And I keep getting the sense about this full moon that there's something in here that is tied to memory. And it's almost like Uranus comes in and helps to kind of like unlock a memory. And maybe that's the light bulb moment, right? Like maybe we get some kind of new perspective on old memories and the way that they have gone on to like shape our emotional landscape and our emotional responses. The way that they've, whether consciously or not, helped to shape our habits and our routines, the things that we do every day. And there's something in that unlocking that either helps us to reconnect to joy, or reconnect to a comfort that we'd maybe forgotten about, or it helps us to like release an emotional barrier that has been preventing us from connecting to a joy or a comfort that we've really been desiring, whether we've kind of known about it or not. I don't know. I just keep coming back to this idea of an unlocked memory. And again, that's the combination of Uranus and the moon being so full and bright and visible. It's like we just see something. And maybe that's triggered by doing a Uranian type of thing. So changing up the schedule, taking a new route on your way to work, or on your daily walk or whatever, or just approaching the day with a healthy level of curiosity. I think things like joy, pleasure, comfort, the senses, they're not always logical things, right? Like they run much deeper than that. And this full moon has me reflecting on the question of like, how might our emotions, potentially old and deeply rooted emotions, again, we're in fixed sign territory, so these things are they're deep, they're in there. And how might those emotions or those memories or those lived experiences that are like deep within us, how might they be connecting or separating us from our relationships to all things Taurian, you know? And how might we make choices on and around this full moon that reflect our emotional authenticity and not what will please or placate others? And of course, we're thinking about all those Taurian things, the joy, the pleasure, the comfort, the senses, but we also want to apply that to our own specific Taurus house topic. So it could be one of 12 different things, and you'll want to really hone in on it in that area as well. To be fully transparent, that final piece about the memory and the unlocked memory, these are thoughts that are not fully fleshed out at this point, but every time I look at this full moon chart, I just get that idea of, the memories that we hold on to, those memories that like develop root systems within us and like, they like live and like grow in our bodies in a sense, and then they wind up shaping so much of who we are, like for whatever reason that just kept coming to my mind, so I wanted to share it. Um, it could be that the full moon is also in a trine with Pluto, which is over in Capricorn at that final 29th degree. So, this trine won't actually be exact until I think maybe like 12 hours after the full moon, but that's still very close. It's still very much in play. The energy is still building there. And Pluto does tend to want to uncover things that are hidden, things that are obscured, and it definitely brings its own brand of revelation. So, who knows? Maybe that is influencing those feelings that I'm getting there, but maybe I won't get the final illumination about all of this until I am also under the full moon. I will report back. But let me know if that final piece or if anything that I shared today has resonated with you. I hope all of the info was helpful and that you've got a better idea of, the Taurus full moon vibes for this year. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you need any clarification about any of this. Let me know where Taurus is in your chart and if you have any plans for the full moon. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. If you do enjoy my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. It's super helpful and it's super free. And I will be back with more astrology insights and other cosmic chit chat very soon. But until then, I'll catch you in the cosmos.